Hey everybody, in this video I'm going over how to draw a cylinder with value. Alright, so what I need, my reference image. Always make sure that you're looking directly at your reference image and you're not just making stuff up in your head. Your value scale, which is going to be a useful tool, your pencil with an eraser, your drawing surface. You guys are working on a worksheet, I'm doing it on a little piece of paper, and a scrap piece of paper is always helpful. So let's get started. So the first thing is to draw the cylinder. So kind of like when we did the cone, is we have to take into account where the cast shadow is. So the cast shadow appears on the right side of the cylinder, so we're going to have to position our cylinder more to the left so that way we have enough room for the cast shadow. If you can't fit the whole cast shadow into your picture, it's all right, as long as it like looks right. Okay, so first things first is to draw a box, because that's the first step to drawing a cylinder. So I'm drawing a box, make it a little wider. All right. And then the second step is to draw your base ovals, for the top and bottom of your box, making sure that they're inside the box. There's actually quite a bit of the top of the cylinder visible, so I need to make sure that my base oval is a little bit on the wider side, okay? As opposed to like something like this, okay? I gotta make sure that it's a little bit more wide this way, okay? Then I'm gonna do the same thing at the bottom, try to make sure that they're about the same. Good. Then I'm gonna pick my best curves. Remember not to draw like super hard, because it's only gonna mess you up later. Go over it. Good. And then erase my guidelines. All right, there's my cylinder. Next thing we've got to do is get the cast shadow in, okay? So if I divide my cylinder in half vertically, this part of the cast shadow just almost touches it, okay? And then if I were to divide it horizontally, and I'm looking at like here to the bottom, not like including the top. If I were to divide it horizontally there, it's gonna come almost to that point. So I could continue to divide it into quadrants there. So I'm gonna do that. Not quite. All right, it's like 3/4 of the way, okay? So I'm gonna divide this in half. I'm gonna mark just about where this part of the cast shadow is gonna come out. So I marked it just a little bit to the right of that line. Then if I divide it again, divide this, and then divide it one more time in this spot, it'll be right there. Okay, so I can get rid of all of that. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my scrap piece of paper. I don't need this layer anymore. And I'm gonna take the same measurement I did before, which was not including the top of the cylinder. So I'm gonna put the corner of the paper up to where the top of it is, not including this area, and just mark that. And then I'm gonna see how big this is. So if I go to where the cast shadow comes out down here, it's just a little bit taller, okay? So then I'm gonna take the scrap paper again. I'm gonna measure that out, and then I think I'll go to like there. That's how long I'm gonna make it. Now, if we look at this cast shadow, this one, it doesn't come out straight across either. It angles upwards a little bit, okay? So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna line it up to where I thought it was gonna go, and I'm just kind of gonna mark where the top of this needs to be. right? So what I can do here is I can basically just draw a line that shows the direction of my cast shadow. So I'm gonna sort of find like the halfway point, and I'm just gonna angle it upwards a little bit, like that. Then I'm just gonna kind of start connecting these a little bit. And then the last part is I'm gonna make a base oval to make that rounding out bit a little bit easier. Then I pick my best curves as always. And I can erase my guidelines. And then next up, I gotta actually put my cylinder into a space. So if I look at where the horizon line occurs, it's like, if I were to draw it through here, it does intersect the top of my cylinder. So I'm gonna try to mimic that, or I'm just gonna intersect just the top like that. Then erase what I don't need. And then I'm ready to move on. So now my cylinder's in an actual setting, okay? All right, now it's time to map out the core shadows. So the top of this is all pretty light, but I see a shadow that goes just down the center like that. And then I actually see like this weird curve right here. And that's like the biggest color transitions that I see. So I'm gonna make my line, my little hump. And if I notice that hump doesn't quite reach the cast shadow, so I'm gonna sketch that in. All right, very cool. Ready to add value. That was alrighty, good. Let's see. That cast shadow also kind of looks like a 7. So I'm gonna fill that in too. All right. Now, let's see. If I look at the very top of my cylinder, it kind of looks like it might be a 4. So I'm gonna go in with some level 4 value at the very top. All right. Then it looks like it might be a 6, between a 6 and a 7 in this area right here. So I'm gonna bring that up. And then it looks like it's kind of like a 5 over here. And then let's look over on this side. That looks like it's definitely between a 4 and a 5. All right, I might have done a little bit too dark on the top of my cylinder, so I'm just gonna really lightly erase it and then just go over it with some really light value. All right, and then down here, that looks like between a 5 and a 6. And then I'm just kind of going over some of this a little bit. Because even though like I could say, okay, yeah, this is definitely like a 4 and a 5, is that sometimes the shading can be a little bit like proportionate in a way. So it might not quite look super right sometimes. So you can just kind of play around with it. I think I gotta make this transition a little bit more subtle. All right, that's looking better. So then I'm gonna add in the floor value because it's not quite white. And voila, I got my sketch of my cylinder.